to all of you. Uh, Thank you so much for taking out time for being here today. I'm Rahul Lalit, a partner in crisis and resilience practice at Grant Thornton Bharat. I'll keep my intro short so that we can get straight into why we are here. But a quick note, my work focuses on crisis management, investigations, anti-fraud, building systems that help organizations detect and deter and respond to misconduct. Today's conversation sits at the intersection of two realities that every leader must now manage: rapid technology change and the enduring centrality of people. We are running this webinar as part of the Risk Week 2025, GT Bharat's week-long series that brings practitioners, board members, and HR leaders together to translate risk into action. Risk Week runs across 3 cities and a set of virtual masterclasses designed to help leaders make decisions that are both bold and resilient. Today's session, Human Risk 360 Degrees, Governing Trust, Talent, and Technology, is one of those conversations. Why Human Risk 360 Degree? Because when organizations talk about risk today, they rightly focus on cyber regulation and markets. But the most complex risk remains human. In fact, in more than 2 decades of my career in ethics and integrity, one thing is clear: crises have more often than not been people centric and due to broken behavior rather than broken systems. Today, human risk is being shaped by two powerful forces: culture and capability. How we govern people, how we shape culture, how we prepare talent, and how we manage insider and data risk. That's the terrain that we'll cover in the next hour. Our goal is practical: to leave you with tools and questions you can take back to the boardroom and to the HR leadership tables. With that thought, I would like to welcome and introduce our panelists, leaders who work at this intersection every day to help us decode how organizations can build trust, develop talent, and govern technology in truly integrated ways. We'll run through some targeted questions and then open the floor to audience Q&A. Firstly, joining us from the manufacturing sector is Mr. Sandeep Girotra, Executive Director and Group Chief Human Resource Officer at DCM Shriram. Sandeep brings nearly 3 decades of multinational HR experience across manufacturing, pharma, financial services sector, with long stints in Japan, Korea, Middle East, and Singapore. He has led HR through large reorganizations and M&A, and today focuses on building the organizational ecosystem and people capability to support business growth in manufacturing, a sector where workforce risk, safety, and operational continuity are daily management priorities. A warm welcome, Sandeep, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Next, I'm pleased to introduce Mr. Rahul Shankar, Chief Human Resources Officer and Head of Corporate Communications at Cube Highways, one of India's largest infrastructure platforms and a globally backed InvIT. With 2.5 decades of experience spanning in infrastructure, renewables, and energy domains, Rahul has been instrumental in shaping HR strategy and culture in organizations undergoing transformation and growth, with strong focus on leadership development, organization design, and digital HR evolution across India, Middle East, Africa, and Southeast Asia. He's a strong advocate of inclusive and technology-driven workforce that fosters innovation, accountability, and a future-ready organization. Rahul, a warm welcome to you as well, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Rahul, for inviting, and good afternoon to my fellow panelists as well.
And last but not the least, also on our panel is our very own Mr. Prashant Mehra, Partner and Chief People and Culture Officer at Grant Thornton Bharat. Prashant is a chartered accountant who has spent over 2 decades leading operations and people strategy at a rapidly scaling professional services firm, Grant Thornton, taking the firm from early days to a pan-India organization and making it a truly global Indian organization and shaping its people-first approach to growth. Prashant, thank you very much for taking our time. Pleasure to have you.
Thank you for the warm welcome, Rahul. Good afternoon, everyone.
Panelists, I think with your diverse experience in manufacturing, infrastructure, and professional services, today's discussion, I think, will make it truly 360 degrees around human risk. So let me start with people risk compass to understand how do organizations set people risk appetite that boards can meaningfully oversee. Sandeep, if I may begin with you, from your perspective, what do you think is the biggest human risk today for a manufacturing company like yours? And how do boards and HR align on the limits and signal that define people risk appetite? You're on mute, Sandeep.
Yeah, if you allow me to rephrase the question a little bit,
Sure.
what is the biggest people-related risk in an organization today? For any organization, whether it is manufacturing or services or whatever, I think the big piece is about succession. Big piece about not having the right talent. So as I always say, see, capital is now available. I think there's some disturbance somewhere in between. I think.
Somebody's mic is unmuted actually, so maybe.
Can we request people to? Yeah.
Right. Okay. So look, I think there are two things that are required in a traditional setup for an organization to do well. You need capital and you need people. I think all the rest is kind of, revolved around these two things. Fortunately, in the last 10, 15 years, um, capital is available. It is available at a cost. It was always available. But there was a scarcity, let's say, a couple of decades ago. But now capital is available and it's available at a reasonable cost. There are funds that are ready to invest in India and invest in India's manufacturing story, technology story, and all that stuff. So money is available. What is concerning is the talent. What is concerning is the people, and not the number of people. Because I think we have 1.4 billion, or maybe counting. As we end this program, there would be another 50, 60,000 kids added to the country. But it's just the work, the population which is ready to work and invest themselves in productive growth is what is missing in India. And unfortunately, that's what's going to be killing us if we don't get that piece right. Um, there was a competition that we had with China, let's say about 25 years ago, when we missed the bus and we said, look, manufacturing, we missed the bus, China took over, so we grabbed services. And it has come back again. That cycle has come back again, wherein people talk about manufacturing cycle. India could be, could be another destination for manufacturing. And it seems like we've been talking about it last 2, 3 years, especially after COVID. But I still feel that we haven't got our act together. An answer to that is going to be, and the reason why I say what I say is with some facts that Prime Minister internship program. It was launched with a lot of fanfare last year with absolutely right intent of training our people, giving them internships so that they become employable. And guess what? I mean, they're just about 5% people who, just to give you an example, we got a target of 250 people to be hired. We rolled out offers to 260 odd people, and only 12 of them joined. And now today, only 6 of them left. So the willingness to work and to be employed, opportunities are there. I think that is something that is scary to me. If we don't get that piece right, our mindset right, our work ethics right, that is a big sustainability and a risk, organizational risk going forward.
Thank you, Sandeep. Thanks for your thoughts. Rahul, I'll come to you. For a large capital incentive infrastructure projects company where you have distributed workforces across India, how do you define people risk appetite? and how does the leadership steer the company to manage that risk?
Thanks, Rahul. And I think I will start by agreeing to Sandeep what he just said. I think two important words. One is today the employability and ethical way of working, and that's the standard risk that every organization is grappling with. Specifically in the industry like ours, which is very capital intensive, uh, our human risk appetite is moderate. See, we accept the natural risk of distributed workforce at site, hundreds and severals of contractors, scale and complexity. But we have zero tolerance for ethical breaches, safety violations, compliance misgovernance. That's where we have a zero tolerance. Okay. And how we address it, I think there are a couple of interventions that is ingrained in our DNA. One is the communication to the last level in the way they understand it, because we work with the employees all across the country. Second, very important is that uniformity in whatever you do. The governance policies, processes is uniform all across. And for that, specifically for that purpose, human resources, compliance, and legal, they operate at a group level, despite having that we are a multi-entity setup, but anything which is related to compliance and process operate at group level, so that there is no discrepancy in how we really embed this culture of, compliance, ethics, risk, governance out there. And also accountability, our accountability towards our investors, towards our board. And board plays a very active part today. Human risk matrices, I think they sit alongside with financial risks, and this gets reviewed through dashboards where we are in every quarterly board meetings, and updates on your near misses situations, your whistleblower complaints. So all those things get minutely reviewed and discussed, and see what needs to be done to ensure that it is on the right track. So all those things, I believe, it has strengthened our resilience towards what is our way of working. How do we want to really institutionalize this culture and de-risk this phenomena in the industry, specifically in the type of industry that we are in.
Right. Sandeep, just to add on to what Rahul mentioned about how there are dashboards, etc., which are then discussed, and they're right next to the financial matrices. In an organization like yours, is that something that is also pursued at a board level, where you mentioned about talent shortage or the skill shortage in that sense as one of the risks? So how does the organization get guided by the board on aspects like those?
No, absolutely. I think it's a definitely a board agenda. And not only here, whichever company that I worked for, I think people availability, talent, future readiness of the talent is, and succession is one part of it, is a board agenda. Companies that have not put that as a board agenda are no longer existing on the face of this earth. Um, but it has to be married very well with the economic agenda of the organization, the financial agenda. So, it has to kind of, carry both. I mean, I worked for GE for a long period of time, and they could not have been a better HR practice than, or, HR practices than GE. But somehow, that didn't translate over a period of time into the strategic agenda of the organization. Absolutely, I think board has to look at that.
Right. Thanks. Prashant, coming on to you. I mean, I recently heard your interview. I mean, and you did mention that human are not resources; they're assets, right? And for an organization like ours, I mean, we are nothing without our people. Like a professional services firm. For us, what do you think? I mean, what is our or biggest human risk in a professional services firm or a services firm? Is it really talent retention, burnout, being prepared for AI, etc.? What is it? What's your thought?
Well, firstly, thank you for watching the social media post, but I can tell you there's much more interesting stuff there. So you may want to look at that as well. But thanks once again. Yes, I think, just to answer your question, and firstly, I'd like to just, give my compliments to Sandeep for rephrasing the question towards people related risk, because I think everything is really about the people. And if you haven't understood it before, I think all of us have understood it during the pandemic, including the most, technology enabled companies. They really had to have humans to run something. So human factor is there in anything. I think it's the biggest enabler. Um, but to answer this specifically from a professional services firm, let's first understand what are the assets that a professional services company really has. And according to me, there are really two. One is people, which is a constant, and but the other thing which often gets ignored and is probably taken for granted is the brand reputation. And I think for a professional services firm specifically, it is the brand reputation that is the biggest risk asset. It takes years and decades, and Rahul and Sandeep would know this better than me, that especially in their businesses and of course ours as well, brand reputation is all what it is. You can spend decades building one, and you can spend one evening killing one. And it's very difficult to regain that brand reputation. So I wouldn't consider people really as a risk, because, and which is what the Grant Thornton's philosophy is, that you need to care about your people, which is why the people first approach, and they will take care of everything else. What you need to always do is protect the brand. And I think, to protect the brand, you need people to understand what is the value of the brand. I can tell you, even from I've probably onboarded 150 200 partners over the last couple of years. Rahul, you're one of them. And I think that at every point of time, people always overestimate their own brand over the company or the firm's brand. uh, that's the mistake that we all of us make. But it is the responsibility of the leadership, the board, the management, to make sure that the brand is protected at all times. And we need to first, it's not right to just expect people to protect that. I think you first need to make people understand. And I'll give you an example. We recently onboarded our general counsel, and I was asked this question by a general counsel that, how do you want me to work? There is doing business in terms of enabling ease of doing business, and then of course there is protecting the gate as well. So what do you want me to be? I said, what you're asking me is, do I want you to be inside the gate or outside the gate? You know what, I want you to be on the gate, to make sure that the right balance between ease of doing business and protecting us is ensured. And it's only through people that you can do that, because you can't keep your brand stored away somewhere. The brand is out there being used by everyone. So only behaviors can be influenced to make sure that the brand is always protected. And I think that understanding, not just in professional services firm, but perhaps every business, needs to be much better understood and appreciated. So that to me would be the biggest risk.
Thanks, Prashant, for that. Uh, Rahul, coming back to you, in a high growth, high attrition environment, which infrastructure often is, compensations, rewards, uh, leadership pipelines, they become key, right? I mean, something like succession, what Sandeep also mentioned too. How do you mitigate the talent uh, risk, the loss of key people, skills, etc., while maintaining that cost discipline and governance?
So in infra setup, attrition is just not a number. I think part of the real attrition is losing the key people, people with unique skill sets, my multi-skill engineers, and my specialized operators on the side, right? A middle management people. I think those are the talent that we need to be very focused about. And we address this through multiple initiatives. One, as Sandeep also mentioned, about the succession planning, right, which gets reviewed on the board, of course. And succession is not about slotting somebody, but also about even the middle management and key management showing you where the growth trajectory will evolve and how will it evolve. So we have couple of initiatives, and uh, most of them are not single training initiatives, and They are like multi-months coaching-based, assessment-based interventions that go for 6 months, 9 months, which prepares the person. So there is there is a visibility of the opportunity for a talent, right? And there is also the upskilling for the right behaviors and the skill sets that is required. That's one. Then also we have a curated rewards program, right? So of course, then when we talk about performance management system, okay, so over the last 2 years, what we have done, we have revamped the performance management system, and we have tried to really define which are my roles, which are like what you call stable roles, right? And which are the roles or which are the talent, which is a high growth talent, and how is the rewards being differentiated? I mean, talk about rewards, it is your annual rewards as well as your long term rewards, right? How does your long term rewards really satisfy the appetite for, yes, I'm being taken care of within the organization, as well as I do have a growth. So one goes towards the leadership pipeline, and the second layer is work towards our operations guy, the key guys over our sites, right? So it's a dual strategy that gets operated upon. So this is how we are addressing it. And also what we have been doing very cautiously and consciously here is we are also continuously benchmarking our talent with the market. You know, where does our talent stay, and what are the risk indicators from the compensation point of view? And that helps us a lot in really, adjusting that, bringing to the market aligned compensation, whether through the fixed compensation or a short term incentive compensation or long-term incentive compensation, depending upon where the talent gets slotted in. So, and and this has been in rigor for last 2 years, right? So these are some of the ways I believe we have been able to address this, and this is not as of today a major risk that we envisage, but yes, we are always, you know, thinking about the future as well.
Great. Sandeep, is it similar? Is it similar to your organization as well, and what you've seen through your career span as well, or do you have any other views?
No, absolutely. I think very similar. You cut across geographies, you cut across Indian companies, multinational, cut across industries. I think that stands true. And there is absolutely no replacement to what just Rahul talked about. Um, that's the gold standard, sorry, not gold standard. That's a basic that is required now. So and top of it, there are other things that make the differentiators. But I think that's irrespective of wherever you worked and whichever industry you worked in.
Right. Uh, you know, great insights, and on the people related risk, not people risk, as I've been corrected. So great insights on that. And now that we've explored that, I think let's turn to the force that quietly shapes everything: culture. You all three of you mentioned that about culture, and somewhere reflecting that on the reputation and the brand. If people are the engine, culture is the operating system, really, and the invisible layer that determines whether risk is contained, ignored, or amplified. Reports show that nearly 70% of corporate failures uh, have had cultural red flags long before technical issues appear. It is no longer I would say, a soft issue, but a frontline shield for human risk. Um, Prashant, coming back to you, in a remote work, hybrid work model, what steps have you taken in cultivating a culture of trust uh, for an organization like GT, and where our teams and members are distributed and client facing? So how do you prevent misconduct in that sort of an environment?
Now, I'll be spending close to 5 decades on the planet, and my biggest lessons have actually come from the pandemic. I think that while we keep making these nice and fancy pyramids and teams and everything, but frankly speaking, during the pandemic, all pyramids were flat. Was watching anybody. Nobody was supervising anybody. Yet the world was moving on. Of course, there were things happening. The world was moving on, and very quickly we came out of that and started demonstrating growth. the cost depleted, the revenue started rising, everything was happening. And one behavior that I saw, not just within the firm, perhaps everywhere, was integrity, or what we call at our firm, self accountability. People were conscious themselves that, I need to do this. I am the master and I am the servant. And I think that culture we've rightly adopted, and we lead with that culture as far as the firm is concerned. I can tell you that it is not possible to police 15,000 people that we have in the country, with, of course, such a diverse range of activities and geographies and nature of work that people do. So we trust everyone. We assume positive intent. But I don't know if you've ever traveled in, especially the European public transport. Nobody checks whether you have a ticket or not. But God forbid, if you caught, then something really bad will happen to you. And and I think our organization is the same. We don't want to put checks and balances on things. We'd like to trust our people. We'd like them to demonstrate self accountability. But yes, there will be checks, there will be random checks. Something may come to our light. If that happens, then I think you are being unfair to the firm, because the firm treats you as family, and it's like stab in the back, or whatever you may call it. For that, yes, there is penalty, there is a behavior correction that needs to happen. Could be a possible exit at the firm as well. But we exercise empathy always. And you are innocent until you proved otherwise.
Yeah.
So that's really the culture at the firm. Tomorrow, I get 911 issues almost on a daily basis, but I don't get perturbed by them. I always have a conversation from both the parties, try and understand the situation, and then say, okay, what really went wrong. To stop being judgmental, to be curious is one of our culture traits. To assume positive intent is one, and of course, at all times we expect everybody to be practicing self accountability, and that just makes governance less of a headache and more effective in our experience. But would love to hear from Sandeep and Rahul on how they've been managing culture at their organizations, because I know they're excellent organizations as well, and perhaps something for us to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. Rahul or Sandeep, you want to chime in?
Sandeep, will I go first?
Sure. Look, I think culture is everything. What is an organization otherwise? I mean, it's brick and mortar. And we've talked about the importance of people and people talent and all that stuff. And what is talent again? I mean, it's not a warm body. It's a body that thinks and thinks in a different direction, in a direction. Now, that direction could be good, bad, ugly, depending on how you're thinking. Um, if you think positively, if you think in the right direction, it's called positive culture. If you think negatively, then it's called negative culture. What's underlying that culture is the values. See, culture is defined by how you react to a particular situation, to a particular environment where you live in. There was a culture in Ayodhya. There was a culture in Lanka. So both had a certain culture. Now and both kind of suited the environment, what was required of that place, of that organization. Let's say, if we call it organization. Now, good, bad, ugly. I think we've been taught the way we've been taught, so we believe that one is better than the other and all that. But there was a culture. There was something good happening in both the parts. What is underlying, what differentiates, is the values that people hold. I can speak about my company, DCM Shriram. I think we're a legacy company. We very proudly say that we are a legacy company of over 120 years. And we're still floating around. We're not only floating around, we're doing very well. I mean, different parts of the organization, that we may not be still one single DCM. Maybe we have different parts of DCM now operating differently, but the values, I think, are very similar. Of my promoters, very similar to, let's say, an SRF promoters, to very similar to, other. Uh, I think that's just the quality of leadership that was given or provided to this organization, and they haven't moved an inch from that. Come what may, good days, bad days, COVID, no COVID, financial crisis, SARS, this, that, and all that, they have headstead, continue to live those values Just to tell you, I mean, in our business meetings, our chairman gets up. He hardly gets upset. He's a very sweet person. Otherwise, and but the only time he would maybe get a little hustle is when we talk about payments to the vendors. So, and he said, look, we always believe that we should be right up there, paying our vendors on time, never delay it. Those are the kind of values that they've been living with, and it shows in the way we treat people, in the way we look at our stakeholders, whether they are vendors, whether they are partners, our JV partner, I mean, everything. So, and that defines us. That defines who we are. And every organization has those sets of values, or different values that they promote, and the culture then flows out of those values. So if you don't have values, if you don't a culture, forget about that's a very broad. If you don't have values, then you're dead. Then you're not a living being, and an organization is a living being. So values are your nerve systems, and you have to have those values.
Right. Rahul, your thoughts on this piece?
Yeah, pretty similar what Sandeep was saying. I think culture is everything, and as he takes pride in saying legacy-driven organization, how the owners take pride in a setup like ours, right? We have global PE funds who have been investing not millions but billions here. So they see us from the lens of global benchmarks when it comes to governance and processes, right? So for us, also the culture is not just a slogan; it's a part of risk management, because see, multiple highways, right, are being used by the citizens of this country. It has touch points from the administration, from local activists and everything. So one incorrect behavior at my toll plaza, or one unethical, decision by a contractor, and Sandeep or Prashant took, the reputational damage is very, very high. Right. So one small incident. So we have to be extremely cautious, and precisely for this reason, right? So we are not a company which is gated and I can see or really have direct, indirect touch points, physical or visible touch points in one location. So we are all across the country. So your trust and confidence that people are doing the right thing. But how do you embed that? And one very important thing which I believe, I think that's very important is your leadership modeling that behavior, you know in their day-to-day actions, conversations, and are people believing it? And that's very important, that if your leadership is doing it, and ethics and governance, we all say it's uniform for everyone, but in practice, is it right? So do people have confidence that it's not about show me your face and then I will show you the policy? Okay, so we take it pretty seriously that there is absolute uniformity, and as Prashant also mentioned, that while we do have trust and confidence in the employees, but then consequence management also should be extremely clear, and people should be aware about it, not as a threat, but as a deterrent, right? So while there are rewards for doing the right thing, but of course, and each coin has both the sides. And I will tell you one small thing that we keep doing. In one thing, what we also did, you're aware that we ran one full month of ethics and compliance. We call it Ethos 2025, where ethics and compliance team reached to each and every site. We spent a lot of time taking them through, and it's more of a refresher or telling them do's and don'ts, including the subcontractors on the site. So we did it for a month with across all uh, the locations. Secondly, what we also did, we started a very, very simple appreciation program. We just call it pat on the back. It's not reward, it's appreciation, that anybody from the site can nominate her or his colleague whom they found have really displayed right value or highlighted a safety violation, and it gets appreciated at a larger platform. So, and that changed behavior, that instilled confidence in people, and they started believing in that, yeah, this is how the organization operates. It's also very important because we acquire lot many assets, so there are people who are coming from very different cultures of other organizations where they have been working, correct? So we acquire them, and then so when we do the post acquisition integration, the cube way of working is a very, very important subject. And our team you spend months there to ensure that you do understand how do we operate, right? So we have very different benchmark, we have a very different governance mechanism, we have very well defined policies, right? Whether that's a reporting about any incident, we have very stringent contractor audits, right? We have very stringent contractor onboarding verification. Sometimes it takes time, right? We take longer time than maybe in normal organization infra, but yes, I think that's how we operate, and so that we ensure that if somebody starts the journey with us, I think yes, they do understand how do we operate and maintain our assets across the country. So so the culture of doing the right thing, do people understand what the right thing is, and then people started believing that this is not a formality, you know but a socially rewarded phenomena in this organization. I think that helps.
Right. Right. Uh, I mean, like you mentioned, pat on the back program, and something which appreciative of people. Uh, Sandeep, Prashant, I mean, we expect right behavior from people, and everybody comes from their own value systems, etc. Sandeep mentioned about values. Um, is there? I mean, do organizations like yours run incentivization program for a good behavior or a exceptional behavior, or reporting for that matter, like we have the US whistleblower program, for instance? I mean, is there any sort of a incentivization which motivates people to demonstrate something from a culture standpoint? Any thoughts around that?
All right. Okay, that's an interesting one, huh? How do you incentivize people to demonstrate the right behavior? Now, it depends on, what behavior you're talking about. See, it was sales behavior. You want to go out and sell better. I do have a sales incentive plan.
Yeah.
If you demonstrate good set of values, we have values, agility, customer centricity in US. I mean, we do, awards. But yeah, I don't believe in. I mean, after I got two sons. My younger one is 20 now. I think the last time that I rewarded somebody for good behavior was almost about 15 years ago. When he was 5 years old and he did something well, so I gave him a chocolate. Now, you don't do that. I mean, at least I don't do that in my organization, that you behave properly and I'll give you a chocolate. That's not what. See, it's your moral responsibility to behave. It's your moral responsibility to live those values. If you don't live those values, then you're not part of the organization, because my organization is bigger than you. My organization values are bigger than the organization, and my organization is bigger than you. So in that pecking order, for heaven's sake, don't make me reward you. And recognition is okay, but don't recognition of right behavior. um, uh, Rewarding for a certain behavior, I think the last, as I said, maybe, yeah. So I don't want to use any other analogy right now,
Oh,
that would not be very fair on such an august company, but otherwise, yeah, that's given.
it's
That's
given. Yeah, that's the
it's given.
baseline. I mean, that's where you start. That's where you
Absolutely.
start. I mean, that's where anyone
You're
starts.
there or not there, period.
Yeah. Yeah. Prashant, thoughts?
Now I'll start from where Sandeep finished, because it was like a preface to what I was gonna say. So
Yeah.
definitely, but just to great segue into what wanted to say, that no, behaviors cannot be rewarded. In fact, we're accountants, so we love scorecards.
Mm.
But our
Yeah.
scorecards are divided into two. One is foundational and one is performance. Now, the foundational scorecard will not get you a rating. The foundational scorecard has outcomes of behavior. So you fail on conflict checks, you fail on quality, you fail on people score, you fail on net promoter score, things like that. If you do that, then you may still get rated in the firm from a scorecard perspective, but you may not progress in the firm because you are not demonstrating the hygiene behaviors that are required, which is why it's called a foundation scorecard. And we will not tell you at the end of the year. What we also do, we do a people behavior survey um, uh, twice in a year, which is like a 360, where people can actually go on our portal, our performance management portal. So you can go on the portal and you can say, Prashant, there are 4 behaviors in the firm. There's self accountability, coaching, sharing, and listening. While you do great on sharing, but I think you're a pathetic listener and you need to improve on that. So people get feedback during the year that they need to improve behaviors, because if they don't improve behaviors, their foundational scorecard will get affected, which may still get them salary bonus, but they may not progress in the firm. So as Sandeep said, very clear, this is hygiene. If it's not demonstrated, something will get compromised. What is the reward of demonstrating hygiene is perpetual growth in the firm, not a transactional reward. So recognition, yes, but no reward.
I think well said. Just to add over there, I think the point that you made was right, Prashant. Values, behavior sometimes are fundamental, and fundamentals do not get rewarded. Fundamentals get developed over a period of time, and while you're developing those fundamentals in period, you reward them to imbibe those behaviors. But after a point in time, you stop doing it. Means to the kid also, hard work is taught to a certain extent, and you reward kids for going to the school on time, have a well ironed uniform. You reward them, but you don't see kids being rewarded at in class 10 and 11 for those things. You do that in the nursery, you do that in the first 5 years of your life.
Yeah, you have the right behaviors, you're in the class, otherwise you're standing outside the class with your hands on your ears.
Yeah, I mean, and again, first 2 years, you still are part of, because you're still developing. You don't know what's right and what's wrong. So, your reward is a way of telling you what's right and what's wrong. But अगर उसके बाद भी नहीं समझ आता तो फिर राजा अब उसका क्या कर सकते हैं?
Very interesting thoughts. So, we of course spoke about culture. Now, time to move on to the next segment. Um, of course, culture can shield an organization against human risk, but probably shielding is only half the story. The other half is prepping for what's coming, anticipating new behaviors, new risks, new capabilities before they arrive, and the ability to transform quickly. In essence, being future ready in a rapidly changing world of AI and digitization. Sandeep, a question to you, with increased automation, robotics, AI on the plant floor, how are you upskilling and reskilling manufacturing employees who may not be as tech savvy as others? Or how do you balance the risk of not having skilled workers with the cost of or risk of hiring inexperienced talent?
Yeah, look, I think that's given now.
Hmm.
Technology, AI, tectonic shifts has happened and will continue to happen. It's not those fly by night stuff that is somewhere in the horizon but never hits us. So it is happening. Um, and people who are smart are agile in picking it up. Sometimes they are forced to do it, not forced by, you can't put a danda and say, look, you got to do it. They understand, smart people understand what's written on the wall. So they've done it. They've done it. What we will do, we actually just came out today of having a session by a young guy, 27-year-old, teaching all our employees, including our MDs, about the AI and AI agents and the tools that we can use, and there were about 600 people who participated in that web chat. Some will pick it, some will not. Those who pick it up are the ones who are going to move ahead with the stuff. um, Here the behavior change has to be rewarded. Again, we were talking about tectonic shift of behavior. Here the behavior change has to be rewarded to a certain extent. um, and we have just started the journey, to be honest. Automation and all that was happening for a long time.
Hmm.
Mechanization, automation is all happening in the, for example, we have sugar factories. When I first worked for DCM in 1992, there used to be a factory called Mawana. Mawana Sugar Works, had, let's say, 5,000 employees at that point. And take a few here, there, and all that. I don't remember that. Today, our factories are probably double the size and are running with about 500 people. Because mechanization has happened not only at the factory, but the entire supply chain. From harvesting to cultivating, cultivating to harvesting to bringing it to the doorstep, sugar being made and dispatched and all that stuff. So it's all happening. I think there is the speed of change will just increase as we go along in the next few years. And I think agility somebody talked about. If we continue to be agile and adapt, I think we'll succeed. Otherwise, some people will fall by, fall through the cracks and fall by wayside, and things will continue to move. We are providing the infrastructure ecosystem for people to get there. Um, and my guess is that smart people will get there.
Hmm. And people who don't will automatically lose out in the.
Yeah.
I mean, I would not say long run, even in the short run, I think.
Yeah. I mean, see, because the change has just so, I mean, my favorite example has always been, I mean, um, there was a time when for 30 years, music, or 30, 40, 50 years, the music was defined by LP, vinyl. That is how the music used to be played. And then came the cassettes, and they lived for about 20, 25 years. And then came DVDs or whatever, I don't know what came, CDs.
Yeah.
That lived for about 10 years, and then came MP3, and now Bluetooth. So every time the innovation happened, and innovation, the cycle of that innovation has shortened from 40 years to 25 years to 10 years to 5 years. So people will adapt. And those who don't, they will continue to have gramophone at their home as a vintage asset, not as a music player. So, and we'll have those kind of people as well.
Well said. Well said. Thank you. Rahul, coming to you, what is your approach to a future-ready talent, again, with your company, which involves digital technologies, smart assets, remote operations again.
So see, in industry also it is similar. See, infrastructure will remain a combination of both hardware and software. When I say hardware, it means, cement, mortar, concrete, that's not gonna go away, right? So, and software means that's where the whole segment of digitalization, new app-based, you know, working conditions, and more importantly, the behavior of an individual to change with the times. I think that's very important. And you would have seen, right? So how India on the highways have very quickly migrated from a cash-based tolling system to a fast-tag tolling system, right? Very few people know that fast-tags were in existence for last, what, 12, 13 years, but nobody was wanting to use it till the time government took a stand saying this is the deadline, we're going to close, and then there were lines, but country transition. So that's how digitalization is also impacting how your employees have to also pace up with the time, and we are doing it. And because in our operations and maintenance, most of our activities are all app based, right? Whether that's incident management, a safety violation, turnaround time to correct it. So all our reportings are we run on multiple apps. And one thing that has really helped is that we have started closing down any parallel channel of communication. If you have to report it, you want to see an update, use this, because till the time you keep the parallel channels of communication, the offline reporting always, it's always convenient, right? But then it doesn't change your behavior. Okay, so that's it. And then of course, your own efforts toward upskilling the workforce. First of all, telling them the purpose about why this is required, because see, digitalization or AI, nobody's gonna replace you. It's your own mindset that you don't want to change or don't want to learn it, right? That's gonna replace you by somebody who understand it. Because end of the day, the business has to grow. I think that's the purpose with which we go and tell people that ultimately, and everybody can change, right? So it's not that, you can't change. Age is not a, a criteria out there. So we are doing multiple training sessions on the apps that we do. We we are very progressive digitally as well. But then yes, as I told, when we acquire assets, when we do all this integration, we ensure that yes, we have talent who understands how the work is being done, and how digitalization will eventually keep growing, right? So and we have a very well established training department which help the people, and we have a lot of internal subject matter experts, right, who keep going to the sites and keep training them. Head office is comparatively easy because unlike any other company, we are a fairly young organization, right? So we are not, I know my average age is several years lower than the what industry infra average age is today. So it's much, but then on the sites, yes. So we do a lot of focus on the site because our real business happens on the sites, on our assets where highways are being operated and maintained.
And do they understand, like you mentioned at the sites, I mean, the risk of understanding the new technologies, etc., Rahul? I mean, is that something which has been easy to adapt to or train people into, or uh,
See, there is no uniform answer to that because depend upon many times individual to individual, so many times cluster to cluster, right? And you will have to then curate your own process. How do we really address it? Because end of the day, the way we do business is not going to change, correct? So we'll give you a lot of time, and we'll give you a lot of support in terms of understanding how it is going to be. And then one fine day, when we think that yes, we have to take certain calls, we do that. But then enough support is provided. And then what also we do is we cross mobilize quite a few people many times from the head office to the sites, and from one side to other side, because then we have first generation of Cubians who are with us, who understands us much better, our way of working. We have got mid generation of Cubians who've already got well you know integrated with the organization. So when anything new where you see there's a cluster which need more than little bit of training but more hand holding, I think we depute people, and that helps. You know,
right?
so it's not like one size fits all. So
Sure.
depending upon what we are addressing, are we addressing individual or a cluster of people or something else? I believe our treatment changes.
Prashant, your view, I mean, in a world of copilots, chat GPTs, uh, for a professional services organization, I mean, it's given that, an organization like ours have to invest. I mean, you don't have a way out, but we have to invest in AI skills. How is it that, you are preparing your consulting workforce uh, for these aspects?
Well, I think, firstly, all of us come from a very unique generation. I don't think so
Yeah,
that we are similar generation before or after. We come from a time where we thought twice before booking a trunk call to a place which was 100 kilometers from where we are, to a time where we don't think even twice about doing a video call from a place which is 10,000 kilometers away from us. So, if we don't understand what moving with times, adapting technology is all about, then I'm not sure who will. So I think it is upon us, it is our responsibility to guide, Gen Z or whichever other generations we're working with, to respect technology and adapt technology at the same time. So I'll take this in two parts: automation and digitization, and then AI separately. I think automation, digitization, my clear view there is that whatever does not need empathy should be digitized, because I think machines are better at doing tasks and humans are better at intelligence. That's my personal view. I may be wrong. It could be debated, but that's my personal view, that you, wherever you don't need to apply empathy, please use automation, digitization. And that's what we do at the firm. If people get worried about I will lose something, then I can tell you that people like us have probably gone through. I mean, Sandeep just mentioned the in the music industry the kind of technology that's happened. Have people lost work? Yes, 10 people have lost work, but 100 people have got work as well. So I think we need to look at the net, like we say net zero, we need to look at the net sum. What is that? And technology has always helped us to move ahead more effectively. Uh, taking AI, I think firstly, most of us may not understand, but I think AI first needs to be adapted with a lot of responsibility. Because I can tell you, you put Rahul Lalit on a Google, it takes 1 unit of energy. You put Rahul Lalit on ChatGPT, it takes 70 units of energy. Just because you're not paying for it doesn't mean that the world is not depleted of that energy. So I think we need to use that very responsibly. But at the same time, we are telling our people, please do not fear AI, because this will make your work a lot easier. What you spend doing 5 hours, you will now be able to get done in 50 minutes, and you will have time to do a lot of other things. I think all of us come from the time when we started our professional careers, we used to use typewriters, and computers came in and we thought, oh, we'll probably lose our job. But I think it made our life much easier, and we found something better and more to do. And that's how really the world progresses. So I'm still not sure whether AI is here to stay in its current shape and form, but I think it is definitely something that has to be used responsibly. And what we are telling our people is, let us not tell you how you should adapt AI. You tell us what is it that you do in a day and where AI can help you. In fact, we've run several pilots. We've given free co-pilot licenses to our people, because I think it is not about behaviors first. Before that is also changing people's mindset to adopt AI. And that's what we're working on. It's a journey, long way to go, but hopefully something good will come out of it. And obviously keeping in mind that we've got regulators also. So we need to where client confidentiality and data breach and everything come into play. So we need to strike that right balance between effective ness, productivity, as well as not breaching any regulations.
You
Sandeep,
know,
you want to say
as,
something?
no, no, I just want to, so I heard a very good phrase which said somebody, our trainer only mentioned, is that AI is like a drunk intern. So, पिया हुआ है, how you want to use that is up to you, because that's where you got to use your intellect. You know, if you are naturally stupid, then आपको कितना भी AI दे दूं मैं, you will make a mess of it. So AI is going to give you right now, because there's so much of data available, information available. Because where is AI getting information from? It's getting from what has been already there in store. At some point in time, that information also has to be replenished, and that will come from the brains, from people. So people are not going to go away. The brains, the work of people is not going to go away, but the kind of work will change, as Prashant mentioned. And you'll have to superimpose your own um, intellect on top of AI to make some sense out of data. Otherwise, it's just a piece of data. And if you don't use it, you don't massage it for the context that you want to use it for, it will remain data. It will remain information. What do you do with that?
True. True. Thanks for that. Just move on to the last segment of today's discussion.
Rahul,
Yes.
unfortunately, I have a drop dead time at 5.
Okay.
Is going to take longer?
Just maybe another 5-7 minutes. Is
Sure.
that okay?
Okay. Okay. Just give me a second, then let me tell my people. Yes, just
Yeah. Maybe Rahul, Prashant, I can start with you. And it's while future ready is all about anticipating what next, but foresight only works when it is paired with a clear visibility into what's happening right now, and that's where Insight Watch comes in. The systems, the signals and intelligence that help organizations spot emerging human risks before they escalate. And this is really a question for all three of you, and maybe I can start with you, Rahul. Do you have any alignment of HR and InfoSec systems to manage insider risk, which is becoming a critical part? And how do you manage that across multiple geographies, subcontractors?
That's a very important risk for us to manage, as I told you, depending upon the industry that we are in, right? HR, just policies, the compliance and the governance department and IT. All three departments have to be in sync in addressing the risk, because people behavior, while it will be on process, it will done on the system, right? So all these three work together in terms of addressing how do we mitigate that risk. And couple of things is one that, as I told you, most of things are uh, digitalized today. So we really have a very strict check on how you can use your assets, right? There is a very strong audits on your uploading and downloading patterns, as well as who gets access to what. And while you are in your employee life cycle, you retain that access, but then if that arrangement changes, right, how does the exit happens, and in what time the exit happens. So many a time these things are very common slips, and the person keeps the information coming to him or her, for a pretty long time. So these checks and balances are only possible when the governance, the IT, the HR all come together and devise a mechanism. Humanly it's not possible, 30, 40 spread location, multiple offices. So it's there, right? And we keep reviewing it, we keep improvising it, right? Because new technologies comes, and and we have new apps that are there. So it's there. And we do also check, if there are any violations that has happened, how do we plug it in. Of course, we deal with hundreds and maybe several hundreds of contractors also, and we have we have all the processes which are majorly digitalized, including vendor onboarding, any communication or any document sharing, invoicing, and then the payout mechanism. So all are digitalized. So there has to be a very strong check whether the vendor or contractor today is a part of the system, is not part of the system. So those are there. So it's very important
Sure.
as in fact in the business that we are in.
Sandeep, your views on insider threats. Um, how do you manage your insider threats while maintaining necessarily workforce trust? Is there an alignment between HR and InfoSec teams on aspects? And of course, now with aspects like privacy, etc., coming in, what are your views?
No, absolutely. I think, look, data privacy, insider threats, security, um, especially when we are talking about technology and making ourselves so vulnerable to it. Yeah, every coin has two sides, The question is going to be, how do you continue to keep awareness around it?
Hmm.
How do you ensure that you have the processes, and you have to be ahead of the curve? Um, which requires, it's unfortunate, but it has to, you got to be always on a treadmill as far as that is concerned. And it requires a lot of leadership time, money, energy. But I guess as long as it is not disproportionate to the outcomes that you're talking about, we'll have to continue to invest. And this is going to increase. This is going to continue to increase today with deep fake and all that stuff that is happening. The exposure that people or the organizations are exposing that, or the risk that they are exposing themselves to due to technology itself, I think is unparalleled. Um, my guess is uh, it's scary to an extent, So I don't have an answer as to uh, can this be curbed in the future or minimized, but we'll have to continue to put the guardrails around it, till the time we find a solution to this issue.
Right. Uh, Prashant, your views have been considering, we our people handle client data, confidential data, and of course we maintain people data as well. So your thoughts.
We actually have a great consultant for that. The gentleman's name is Rahul Lalit, who looks after our forensic practice. So yeah, Rahul, I don't know if I should be answering this question or you should be, but let me tell you what you've guided us on. I think as a professional services firm, we're really exposed to a lot of internal threats. There is, we work a lot with the government. Uh, a lot of confidential data that is floated around. We work a lot with public interest entities. We work a lot on accounting frauds. So yes, there is a lot of information that is handled. I think it all starts with behavior. You can put in whatever checks and balances you want, but nothing stops me from taking a screenshot of my what's on my laptop and sending it wherever. So I think firstly, we need to make people aware if this happens, this is the consequence on oneself, one's team, and the firm. As long as people understand that, I think it just makes everybody's work a lot easier. Second, uh, I think if you can try and remove bureaucracy within the organization, and we did that just after the pandemic by saying that there are no departments in the firm. There is no legal department, there is no finance department, there is no IT department, there is no HR or what we call PNC department. These are functions in the firm. Team is one, which is what we call business operations. So, and everybody is part of your team. So when you frame something, if IT has to frame something, they need to speak to somebody who's an expert on HR to get their views, on legal and risk management to get their views, so that everything is aligned and synchronized. And it's not that something gets released which some, let's say, department has not taken care of. So from that perspective, I think we're quite okay, and we need to be. I think that's hygiene for us, because of the nature of business that we are in. Because if it does not go right, then the consequences of that, going back an hour, which I first mentioned, is the consequences is brand reputation. I mean, somebody, an intern whom you're paying 20,000 a month could cause something like that, which can cause a $2 billion brand to come down. So we need to be extremely careful, which is why, yes, we do work on those checks and balances and everything, but always keep telling people it is about that self accountability. Please make sure what is the consequence of that. Uh, People are increasingly getting aware of that, and all good now, but fingers crossed. As I said, as Sandeep said, we every day you can wake up to something new which you never envisaged. So hopefully we don't have to see that uh, anytime. But that's my view on insider threats.
Thank you. Thanks, Prashant. Neil, I'm not sure if you have any questions. Maybe one question, if there is any question from the audience, before we wrap up. You might want to put that up. Neil?
If there are risk managers on this call, they would be thinking, what are we listening to these HR guys? We'll tell them what the risk is all about. But
Right. So I guess it's really time, and before we close up, thank you for very insightful discussion. Yeah, sorry, Neil. Yes.
Yeah, so there's one question
Okay.
saying, what are key signs of a healthy risk-aware culture?
Healthy signs of sorry, could you repeat that?
Risk-aware culture.
Risk-aware culture. What are the healthy signs of a risk-aware
What are the
culture?
key signs of a healthy risk-aware culture?
Sandeep, you want to take that, or any of you? It's really open to all the
what are
panels.
the signs of a healthy
Risk-aware culture.
risk-aware culture? Interesting. I don't know. I will have to think through that. Maybe innovation. An organization that is changing, innovating, fostering change, uh, typically uh, would be exposing itself to risk. Um, but if they are successful in doing it over a period of time, if they're able to sustain that change, that means they are a healthy organization which has promoted the right risk taking ability, and people who have taken risk are these are positive risks that have been taken, if they're able to sustain. And sustainability could be over a period of I don't know, maybe 5, 7, 8 years. Anything shorter than that, I would say is, you don't get to know. A lot of it could be under the carpet. So if you are changing, if you are innovating, and if you are able to sustain that change for a period of 5 to 7, 8 years, that means that's a very healthy organization which has been able to manage risk very well. I mean, off the cuff.
Prashant?
Well, I would say, I mean, no offense to anybody on the call, we're all Indians. But I think, the Indian culture is is about saying ho jayega. Everything is ho jayega. So I think as if I were to be in charge of risk, responsible for risk, and if I'm comfortable that this organization has the culture of saying or the art of saying no, understands, then I think I would be a very comfortable person, because I know people are evaluating risk when they say yes or no. But if everything is a yes, then I will be afraid, because people then don't understand. And risk could also mean that, Rahul, you're good at doing something, I am not so good at doing that. So if I'm trying to do your job just because the CEO told me to do that, I think that's a risk. And if I have the art of saying no, I, as the chief risk officer of the firm, I would be quite comfortable. And those are the signs that this is a risk-aware organization.
Yeah. No, I think I totally agree to that. I mean, having worked in a banking industry, financial services, and especially in subprime loan industry where I used to work in GE Capital, ability to say no. If the leadership is averse to listening to no, that's a big no-no for an organization. And companies are wound up because, there is a set of people who the leadership did not want to listen to a no. Um, that is one. The second piece is your ability to take risk and accept failures. Companies that have accepted failures and take it on the chin and then moved on have demonstrated that behavior for leaders also, or people also, to believe that that is acceptable, to accept failures. Where everything is nice, it's like, you have kids, when you come back from the exam and you ask, "Hey, कैसा हुआ एग्जाम?" बहुत बढ़िया हुआ। वो जो बच्चा हर बार ये बोलता है ना, बहुत अच्छा हुआ पापा एग्जाम, आप उस पर शक करते हो कि यार ये कैसे हो सकता है, मेरा अच्छा नहीं हुआ तो इसका कैसे अच्छा हो सकता है हर बार। सो मे बी दैट इज I have to drop off
Yeah,
now.
sure.
I'm
No, thank
saying
you.
that-
Thank you very much, Sandeep. We are going to conclude as well. Thank you very much for your time and for sharing sharp and grounded perspectives. And thank you to everyone who joined us today. And I hope this conversation leaves you thinking about human risk, not just as a compliance obligation, but as a strategic advantage, a way to build organizations that are both trusted and future ready. So thank you. Thank you so much for being with us here today. Thank you,
Thanks,
Rahul.
Grant Gordon, for inviting us. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.